British Columbia, you can see it there in red on the Pacific coast. For those of you who are not Canadians, you'll know of Vancouver, the largest city in the province. So British Columbia asked, can you help us implement STICS across the whole province? And not only did they request this, British Columbia on their own went out and got extra resources, financial resources, to do the study, which meant hiring more probation officers to free up time for training of the existing probation officers. Now, when this request came in, I thought it was a great idea, and this sounded like a lot of fun. And I told my staff about our next project, and I thought, oh boy, and you know, this is how they responded. Now, why would they react like this? You know, I just couldn't understand it. So I looked more closely at what we planned to do, right? We were going to train 375 probation officers, right? In our original experiment, much fewer than 375. Now, those probation officers, British Columbia has a very interesting system where they have almost like their senior probation officers who deal only with medium to high risk clientele. So these are the 375. We were intent on building internal capacity. We didn't want to be in a situation where Public Safety Canada would continue to provide training for thousands of years to come. So we had STICS coordinators, much more highly trained, office coaches, people who could carry on training through the years. You know, new staff are hired, they need to be trained. We wanted to make this implementation, run it well with integrity. And of course, we wanted a research component. At the time, I was heading up a research unit. We needed to monitor and evaluate it. And we used different methods to evaluate it. So significant resources, both on British Columbia's side and public safety, because it was our time. This would eat up a lot of time. We were going to go out to train every 4 to 6 weeks, flying from Ottawa to British Columbia and coming back. So this was a quite ambitious project. There's one other thing I want to say. This is a large-scale implementation. Oh, and by the way, if there's anybody watching this webinar from British Columbia Community Corrections, people may be confused that this is a picture of myself and Bill Small, the Provincial Director of Community Corrections. No, that's not a picture of the two of us. So this is a large-scale implementation. You have to balance operational needs, right? The provincial director and his team want to get the training done as quickly and as efficiently as possible. This time we were dealing with non-volunteers, right? These were people who were coming in saying, look, I didn't sign up for this kind of training, but now the provincial managers said, well, This is our new way of doing business. And we're dealing with a much larger sample size, which makes it more difficult to monitor and keep on top of it. Fortunately, we had great teams on both sides. Public safety, I had mentioned before, I had Guy and Tanya. We had some additional people who were instrumental here, Liz Bourguignon, Leticia Gutierrez. British Columbia, of course, Bill Small, the provincial director, Carrie McCauley, who was incredible in arranging all the meetings, the STICS coordinators, who would attend with us during the training so they could see how we did the training and learn from it. We had a well-oiled machine, boy. What can go wrong? Well, as I mentioned before, we were monitoring how the project was unfolding. Before coming to training, probation officers were asked to submit audio recordings of supervision. So we had a baseline, a comparison starting point. And of course, after training, they also had to continue submitting recordings, right? We wanted to do a comparison before training, after training. Well, what we found was that the submission of recordings was not where we were hoping to have it. And this is an important thing to monitor, because this also meant that we might have a problem in commitment, right? Probation officers who didn't submit recordings either before or after were more likely less committed to STICS than what we were hoping for. And so we did the unspeakable. Now, I've been around maybe a little bit too long, and I've seen lots of rollouts of new programs, and there's a lack of monitoring of implementation. And even when management sees things aren't going well, they don't do anything about it. Luckily for us, Bill Small and the senior managers in British Columbia agreed to stop all trainings. We put a pause on everything. And we wanted to learn why, what's going on here. So Tanya Ruggie and we jumped into a rental car in British Columbia and drove around, meeting probation officers in their office to try to figure out what's slowing them down. What are some of the obstacles to a more vigorous commitment to STICS? So from the feedback we got, we made various changes to the way we did training and presented our material. And also at the same time, senior management was saying to probation officers, no, this is not the flavor of the month. This is going to be our new business model for community corrections. And you could see the uptake in commitment to STICS. So what did we find in this study? Well, after training, better adherence to the need principle. From the audio recordings, more attention to criminogenic needs, less attention to non-criminogenic needs. And you could see dealing with pro-criminal attitudes significantly jumped. In terms of skill level, we have increases after training on both behavioral techniques and cognitive techniques. That's that cognitive restructuring, all right? Cognitive behavioral, the far left of the slide is a combination of the two others. That's why it's higher, okay? So we have on the content of discussions and the intervention skills, we have improvements after training. The 2-year recidivism results, we see a decrease in general or any type of reconviction after 2 years. Right. The pre-STICS group is a random sampling of clients who were under supervision prior to their probation officer being trained. That's what the pre-STICS group is. This is the first time also in our STICS evaluations that we looked at violent recidivism. And we also, and here too, we found a reduction in violent recidivism. Now, STICS is not the only game in town. Since STICS, there has been some major developments of other programs that are similar to STICS. There's STAR, which is staff training aimed at reducing rearrest. This is a program given to federal probation officers in the United States. They have now trained thousands of probation officers. EPICS, Effective Practices in Community Supervision. It is a training model developed at the University of Cincinnati, and it has been delivered to at least 50 jurisdictions in the United States and also one in Canada. What's interesting about STAR and EPICS is that developers of those programs had visited us in Canada prior to instituting their training modules, and we actually shared our training modules with them. So you can even see some similarities, particularly in their clinical support. The pro-social practice model in Australia, I put that on there. It was actually developed much before STICS in the mid-1990s by Chris Trotter. But it also tries to follow some of the principles of RNR. So there's a lot of hope I see in the future of community corrections, where jurisdictions, probation agencies are looking at what they can do to help their officers be more effective in their one-to-one supervision of clients. But we're not quite there yet, all right? As you can see here, here's sort of a summary of a number of studies that have reported recidivism outcomes. The asterisk signifies significant reductions in recidivism. And what I would like to point out is they are not consistently positive outcomes. Okay, most are, they are all in the right direction, but it indicates to me at least is that we can continue to improve on these programs. Now, I haven't reported it here in this slide, but Sweden has implemented STICS across their country, and they have trained, I think, in the neighborhood of about 800 probation officers. At this point, they have not reported recidivism results. So, you know, if we're going to have improved community safety, it's not through getting tough, not through surveillance, it's through rehabilitation. And the rehabilitation services really need to follow the RNR principles. And as STICS has shown, you can do it, right? You can provide training that leads to this reduction in recidivism. And importantly, if we're going to have large impacts on our communities, we can do it on a large scale. So I am quite optimistic about the future. I hope some of you see or share this optimism. And finally, I just want to thank you.